Our next poet has also been here at Dodo Modern Prose just once before, and last September. She's originally from Bogota in Colombia, and she was shortlisted for the Bridport 2013 Poetry Prize. She's a regular visitor to the Poetry Cafe, particularly at the Poetry at 3 open mic sessions, which take place once a month. And we're very pleased to have Isabel Bermudez back again with Dodo Modern Prose. Welcome to Isabel.
Thank you everyone for coming. Hello. My first poem is for Simon, who I owe so much to. It's called Painter. He has secrets and sometimes he shares them. A gift of sparrows chittering in the siding. As sleepwalkers from the train head up the hill to bus and house, and I head home with a head full of birds to find him at his work, brush in hand. Sometimes when his work is done, he slips out for early morning wandering, gathering sky and grass, stars slipping through his fingers as he plants trees or scatters flower seed. The thrill of near night under an unobserved sky, the unlooked at world, an open road, and I wake unafraid, his absence there beside me. Thank you. My next poem is not far from here, St Martin's in the Fields, the church, and I saw 3 very old men sleeping through a lunchtime concert there, and this poem is really for them. Lunchtime rehearsal for St John's Passion, St Martin in the Fields. They snore into long white beards, each snore a sigh of wooden pews. On day release from hostel, street and sleeping bag, they loll in rags. Rosy-nosed, drink befuddled, their lullaby, soprano voices pure as vodka, sharp as dawn. In the fellowship of sleep, they are longboats, rowing out with the slow, rhythmic movement of oars in still water. Then they soar with the violins, cross seas to distant desert lands, hair flecked with salt. They look down on this corner of heaven and hell, ancient as Jeremiah, Ezekiel or Job cast out. Barrel-bellied, rheumy-eyed, they will break bread with angels. A poem for a writer who is dear to my heart, Jean Rhys, whose graven house we visited, my husband and I, on a kind of pilgrimage last summer to Cheriton Fitzpaine, where she's buried. It's called Sleep It Off Lady, which is the title of her very brilliant short story collection. Sleep It Off Lady, after a visit to Jean Rhys's grave. Locking up the church, a woman tells us of that book of yours she read once, just the one. Pauses a moment, points out of the village, past the new school, farmland, out into the soft red hills you never seem to notice. Just a shack it was then, empty gin bottles by the crate load, fuel for memories that set the record straight and float like thistledown in August air. Pink hibiscus, bougainvillea, the ransacked buildings of an old estate, childhood conjured from afar, Francine and Josephine, housemaid and cook, the mysteries of Aubeas, Paris, then leaving Paris. Finally, the detail of your day, missives from the Siberia of your old age, how you were afraid of everyone in the village, how the world grew cold. In the distance, cows and green fields, an afternoon sunshine that warms the graves. Last week's flower water, mists in a jam jar. Good morning, midnight, carved on a piece of slate. So this is how it ends, if you should ever wake. Thank you. I wrote a poem for another one of my favourite writers, Chekhov, which is essentially about the farm that my mother had outside Medellin in Colombia. It's called The Cherry Orchard. There were no seasons on our farm, no blaze of white among the cicadas. We ate tamales at midday in the long grass, measured evening on the veranda of the house. Instead of blossom, it was filled with zebu cattle, chewing cud in the potreros, las mariposas, las palmeras. Each potrero had a name, not fields as such, but mountain pastures promising existence always. A working farm, it carried on when all around was sold to narcos. Red clay soil became disputed land. Year on year it pocketed a loss. Young girls of 16 married old men of 80, inherited their generous pensions, forcing bankruptcy. Chekhov writes to Olga Daipa, says he's bored with Yalta, enumerates in letter after letter the careful progress of his dacha. Rubles spent and rubles saved, varnish on the staircase, planting of lucerne and clover. Summer, autumn, winter, spring, it's enough to make you spit, he says, the interminable seasons. Near the end, he goes abroad, away from Yalta, to Badenweiler, where dying of consumption, worrying about his stomach and the hopeless style of German women, all hot summer long, he coughs up blood on a white sheet. He, who understood perfectly the human urge to hang on to the very things whose time is past, for whom extinction is the only route, writes once again to Olga, the only thing for breathlessness is not to move. And to end, two poems about love, and the first one, which starts off in an orchard, was written after watching Simon set out the windfalls in my brother-in-law's house in Kent, where we go to dog sit every year. It's called Windfall. The trees are old, arthritic arms overspill, each runs into the other. In these last untrammeled days, wood smoke hung, they groan with apples. In autumn light, grey branches drop summer fruit with a dull thud. Remember buckets, barrels, ladders, and the old days when pickers would come. You bring back as much as you can carry, lay them out in a row on the kitchen top. Washed, dried, some sit straight, others crooked. A balance found, they catch the sun. Reveal dimple, nick, bruise, scar, give off their sweet cidery smell, as if it were all love, this orchard run to seed, one long dream of the earth after rain. And one for my mother and Frank, my step-grandfather. It's called Cilantro. When her English father-in-law grew very old, losing his sense of taste and smell, my mother would take even greater care with what she cooked for him, asking him always to guess the secret ingredient. The lights low, a pot with a new name brought to the table, her puna pie, prison soup, happy chicken, or ceviche with coli, sancocho with yuca and plantain, and frijoles with ají, always slightly bitter, that taste of Medellin, its traffic fumes that hit from the minute you arrive, morning caldo de costilla, warm 4 o'clock rains, new apartment blocks shouldering old verandas, festooned with bougainvillea. Then he, Frank, who knew it only from photographs, would let himself be lulled by words, wine, company, into wooziness, a kind of sickness brought on in far-off Andean altitudes. And he stopped saying it was no good, he could not taste or smell, as old Antioquia pastures, las mariposas, las palmeras, filled with the electric blue butterflies he would have loved. He with his lilies and his garden, geographer, teacher, great reader of maps, now in strange unfamiliar terrain. He kept coming back for those long evening meals, dinners which started at 9, pots and pans piling up, till one day he recognized it, magical herb of my childhood, the quicksilver in my mother's hands. Coriander, he called it, cilantro. Thank you very much.
Very moving and powerful set from Isabel Bermudez. More applause, please. I may take a moment or two to set up, but our next performers have been coming to Dodo Modern Poet Shows for many years, and they're going to be at the Edinburgh Festival this year, their 10th show at Edinburgh since I think about 2001. And so we're not sure if we're going to hear material from that show. That's not probably quite written yet, but they're going to be performing for you in just a few moments.
Are we going to fight over the mic again? Yeah. Good evening.